We are days away from an end and a beginning. The end of the long process to create a medical marijuana industry. The beginning for the select companies and thousands of patients to actually use the drug. Based on other states, it might be $1 million industry. And as our 11 News investigation found, that much money and that much government are the reason the rollout has been so difficult. THV11's Rolly Hoyt illustrates why.
If there hadn't been an insane amount of money to be made in this industry, would those people still have been as excited about, ooh, I'm going to get in on the front, on the front end of this? Probably not.
Forgive attorney Quentin May for his skepticism. It's hard-won after years as a trial lawyer. And ever since Amendment 98 said medical marijuana is legal in Arkansas, he's been very busy.
As soon as I filed this, my phone blew up for 2 weeks straight. Everybody around the state.
He filed a complaint and a lawsuit accusing members of one family of trying to get an edge on selling the drug. When voters permitted Arkansas to join the dozens of states allowing cannabis, it touched off a 21st century land rush.
Over the last year and a half, we've received well over 30 to almost 40 total complaints.
Many of the people that we talked with in the industry express a sincere desire to try and help people. They also expressed frustration over the way the Medical Marijuana Commission tackled the task. Once winners and losers in the cultivation and dispensary contests emerged, complaints started flowing in to the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission right away. Most have been dismissed, but a few continue, including the case of the Sears family.
Don Sears, his wife Mary Frances Sears, and their son Todd each individually applied for and won the right to sell marijuana. Each can set up their own shops in 3 different zones. Don Sears's Doctor's Orders shop is expected to be the first to open in the state.
But on each of the family's applications, when asked specifically if they were affiliated with another applicant, they each put down no. That prompted a group who narrowly missed getting a license to hire May.
The spirit of the amendment and the rule was that you shouldn't have 3, regardless of whose name you put them in.
The attorney for Don Sears said that neither he nor his client could speak with us on camera while the legal matters are up in the air. Their response to the suit hinges on that important word in the application, affiliated. They have a history of this with the ABC.
Public records show various Sears family members have interests in more than one liquor store, including this one in Cabot. Arkansas law doesn't allow any one individual to own more than one. Their lawyers claim different family members aren't necessarily affiliated. ABC enforcement is supposed to investigate ownership issues when it comes to booze. Now Director Dora Lee Chandler will have the same role with marijuana.
This can go back to what's the definition of affiliated, and then that information, the results will be presented to the ABC director. Ultimately, she's going to make the call on this, and if violations are issued, then she has the determination of, is it a $1,000 fine or is this license revocation?
The other bone of contention is Arkansas ownership. The amendment requires companies to have at least 60% ownership by in-state people. But how does a person from Arkansas get the expertise to start a business that until 2016 was illegal? Easy. You call in heavy hitters from out of state. That's what Lindsay Lovett Estes did with Grassroots, based in Chicago, according to their winning application. Estes is listed as the president of the dispensary that won the right to sell in Ward, but became the first to move to a busier spot in Little Rock.
And so our intent is to move from Lonick into Pulaski. The ask would be because there is no point differential in between the counties.
The managers of Grassroots, which will now be at the former bar at Canis and Rodney Parham, would only answer our written questions and said Estes was unavailable to talk. Part of the reason? Grassroots and other out-of-state companies will rely on operating agreements signed with the Arkansas owners. According to May and Hardin, those experienced operators run the business. They pay Arkansans to be the locals on the paperwork. They might not get a true 60% cut, and so far the ABC says it satisfies the local ownership rules, but they are keeping an eye on it.
Is the commission or the director going to have to make a call on how to define these operating agreements?
I think there will have to be a call made, although I think it's going to be based on facts. I think ultimately the look into this is going to go deep enough to where we understand fully where that ownership lies.
And that just doesn't feel right to some of the would-be marijuana millionaires on the outside looking in.
They followed the rules. They did what they were supposed to, only to see the system manipulated and perverted by a few group of people.
When voters approved medical marijuana in 2016, it created opportunities. Experts figure some 30,000 people will take advantage of the drug.
Amendment 98 also mandated that Arkansans make up at least 60% of any ownership group. As an 11 News investigation showed yesterday, that has led to applications that the Alcohol Beverage Control Board is looking into.
And tonight we introduce you to some of the would-be marijuana millionaires with proven Arkansas roots. Here's THV11's Rolly Hoyt.
How do you prove to the government that you can run a business when that business has never legally existed?
Businessman, I just put it together as a business plan like I normally would.
One way, keep the new customers in mind.
I think that I was excited to think that maybe we could make a difference for some of those people.
Dragan Vasenik is part owner of Green Springs Medical. Elizabeth Barrett co-owns Rock City Harvest. They are small business veterans among the 32 groups licensed to dispense medical marijuana. After months and months of delays, they are now mere days away from opening. They are defying the odds, outscoring out-of-state consultants with homemade proposals.
Quite honestly, the dining room table. Yes.
But yeah, it kind of became surreal mid-December when the scores came out, and I think mine was like the 4th highest in the state.
They credit original ideas for winning the merit-based process. Vasenik also owns a vape shop. He figured he could help pain patients the way his vaping products help tobacco smokers.
You know, I want to help people and you know, get them to change over to a natural product that's healthier. And so I think we probably pioneered that part of it. I don't think too many other people came up with that idea.
I think a lot of them are hopeful. You know, a lot of people hurt. They just don't want to hurt anymore.
And that's what drove Dr. Randy Hill to get involved in a parallel lane to selling marijuana. He and 3 partners approved medical marijuana cards.
There's a buzz about it. I mean, people are excited about having something they could take. You know, with the stigma behind opioids this day and age, everybody feels like a drug addict when you walk in your doctor's offices.
Speaking of stigma, the people we spoke with have all encountered varying levels of discomfort here in the buckle of the Bible Belt.
We took a big risk in the community. You know, our reputations were at stake. We didn't know what the patients would think about this. You know, we didn't know what the community would think about it. We could have been pariahs.
Dr. Hill falls back on his hospice experience for motivation while vowing his business isn't a rubber stamp. Barrett ran a plant nursery in Conway.
It was a horticultural business, and of course cannabis is in that realm, so it's not such a difference, except that it's every detail is highly regulated.
And that's been part of the challenge to these locals making money. They had to DIY the applications.
I do know that there were a lot of companies that had consulting firms that helped with their applications, maybe even did more than that. I don't agree with that because that was maybe a little bit of an unfair playing field.
Anytime there's money involved, there's going to be everybody trying to get their piece of the pie.
You know, it could easily be $1 million investment. Whether or not it turns into $1 million in return, I think this is, at the end of the day, a business.
Early indications are many customers held off getting marijuana cards, but these owners remain cautiously optimistic.
I think that once the first dispensary opens, I think that those numbers will just, you know, be out of this world.
You know, we need to find a way that helps people deal with these really tragic chronic diseases that seem to be so prevalent these days. I think cannabis is going to serve a really good role in that.
I hope that the people that are getting in this industry realize that there's a right reason for this and there's a wrong reason for it.
For 11 News Investigates, I'm Rolly Hoyt.
Green Springs Medical is set to be inspected by the state tomorrow.
And if all goes well, the owners think they will be ready to open on Monday. That would make them the first in the state to sell the drug legally. Doctor's Orders in Hot Springs is scheduled to open next Wednesday.